My stepsister falsely implicated me when I declined to get weed for her party. This occurred many years ago. The air in our family home, for as long as I could remember, always felt divided. Like two different families sharing one roof, each with its own set of rules and expectations. I'm in my 30s now, but back then, I was a fresh-faced 22, just trying to carve out my own space in the world. My stepsister, Chloe, was 18, and to my mom, Brenda, Chloe was the sun, the moon, and all the stars. Her golden child. Thankfully, my dad, Robert, always had a good head on his shoulders and would call Chloe out when she pulled her nonsense. But Brenda's interference, her constant need to shield Chloe, meant my stepsister always got off easy. You know, having a step-sibling who gets treated like royalty while you're just there. It really messes with your head growing up. Brenda remarried when I was 10, and from day one, it was glaringly obvious that her daughter from her first marriage could do no wrong. Every family dinner, every holiday, every minor inconvenience somehow became about how amazing Chloe was, or how incredibly difficult things were for her. Meanwhile, I was just expected to exist quietly in the background, a ghost in my own home. The difference in treatment wasn't subtle, not by a long shot. Chloe would get grounded for sneaking out past curfew, but that grounding would last, 2 days. Before Brenda would cave, saying Chloe had learned her lesson. Me. I got grounded once for being 10 minutes late coming home from a friend's house, and that turned into 2 weeks with no phone, no computer, no nothing. Birthday parties were another story entirely. Chloe's Sweet 16. A full-blown event, DJ, catered food, like 50 of her friends. My 16th. Pizza with Robert and his girlfriend at the time, who, ironically, later became my stepmom. Don't get me wrong, I appreciated what Robert did, but the contrast, it was impossible to ignore. School achievements got the same treatment. Chloe made honor roll one semester, and Brenda threw this huge celebration dinner, bought her a new laptop, the whole 9 yards. I made honor roll every single semester for 3 years straight, and the most I got was a passing, good job. After a while, you just stop trying to compete. What's the point when the game's rigged from the start? Robert saw through it. He'd pull me aside sometimes and tell me I was doing fine, that I shouldn't let the favoritism get to me. But when you're a kid watching your step-sibling get a brand new car for their 16th birthday while you got a card with $20 in it, those words just don't hit the same way. I learned early on to just keep my head down and count the days until I could move out. The worst part, though, was watching Chloe turn into this entitled person who genuinely believed the world owed her something. She'd throw tantrums when she didn't get her way, play the victim when anyone called her out, and manipulate Brenda into seeing her as this fragile thing that needed constant protection. And Brenda? She ate it up, every single time. By the time I was 22, I had my own apartment. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom spot about 30 minutes from Brenda and Robert's house, with parking and some decent CCTV cameras watching the lot. I was working full-time, paying my own bills, truly living my life. Chloe, meanwhile, was still at home, still getting everything handed to her, still convinced the world owed her something. So, here's what happened. Brenda and Robert decided to take a vacation, a ski trip to Aspen, and let Chloe watch the house for them. They gave her one rule. One rule, no parties. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Not even 24 hours after they left, Chloe started sending out invites to what she was calling the party of the year. I didn't see that post yet because, honestly, I had my own life going on. But then my phone rang. It was her. "Hey, so I need a favor," she said, not even bothering with a hello. I should have known right then. Nothing good ever came from Chloe asking for favors. "What's up?" I asked, already regretting answering. "I'm having some people over tonight and I need you to pick something up for me." "Pick what up?" "Weed." "Like, enough for the party?" You know, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe the sheer audacity. You want me to buy weed for your party? Yeah, obviously. I already told everyone it would be there. You just need to go to one of those dispensaries and grab some. I'll pay you back. No. Silence on the other end. Like she genuinely couldn't process that I'd said no. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. I'm not buying weed for a party full of 18-year-olds. That's illegal. You know that's illegal, right? It's not illegal if you buy it legally and just give it to us. I rubbed my temples. That's exactly what makes it illegal. Providing to minors, Chloe. That's a felony. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. It's just a party. Everyone does this. Everyone doesn't. And I'm not doing it either. She switched tactics then, started doing that thing where her voice got all whiny. Please. I already promised people. I can't take it back now. The invites are all over social media. If I don't have anything, I'm going to look stupid. Then you're going to look stupid. Should have thought about that before you promised something you couldn't deliver. You're such a jerk. You're seriously going to ruin my life over this. I'm not ruining your life. I'm just not committing a felony to make your party cooler. That's when she really lost it. Started screaming about how I never helped her, how I was always trying to make her look bad, how I was jealous that Brenda loved her more. The usual greatest hits. I let her yell for maybe 30 seconds before I hung up. Blocked her number for good measure, because I definitely didn't need that energy in my life. I figured that was the end of it. She'd have her party. It would probably be boring without weed, and maybe she'd learn a valuable lesson about making promises she couldn't keep. I went back to watching TV and didn't think about it again. Big mistake. The next morning, I woke up to someone pounding on my apartment door. I stumbled out of bed, still in my boxers and a t-shirt, wondering who the hell was trying to break down my door. I checked my phone. 7 in the morning. Who even wakes up that early on a Sunday? I opened the door and found myself face to face with 2 police officers. Are you Ethan Harrison? One of them asked. My stomach dropped. Yeah, that's me. We need you to come with us. You're under arrest for providing controlled substances to minors. I swear my brain short-circuited. What? I didn't provide anything to anyone. You have the right to remain silent, the officer continued, pulling out handcuffs. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They arrested me right there in my doorway, in my underwear, in front of all my neighbors who were suddenly very interested in what was happening. They let me grab some pants and shoes, then walked me down to their car in cuffs like I was some kind of hardened dealer. Mrs. Eleanor Patterson from 3B was standing in her doorway with her coffee, just staring. Great. That was definitely going to make living here comfortable. At the station, they processed me. Fingerprints, mugshot, the works. The whole time I kept trying to explain that I had nothing to do with any of it, that Chloe had asked me to buy weed, I'd said no, and I hadn't even been at the party. But the cops weren't really listening. They kept showing me her statement, where she claimed I'd brought the weed to the house and supplied it to everyone there. I wasn't there. I kept saying. Check my apartment building's cameras. My car never left the parking lot last night. We'll look into it, one officer said, but the way he said it made it clear he didn't believe me. They put me in a cell. An actual cell. I sat there for hours, my mind racing. The thing about being falsely accused is that the burden of proof flips. You're not innocent until proven guilty, not really. You have to actively prove you didn't do something, which is way harder than it sounds. I thought about my apartment building's cameras. Would that be enough? What if they said I'd taken an Uber? My head was spinning. I'd never been in trouble before, never even gotten a speeding ticket. And now I was sitting in a jail cell facing felony charges because my stepsister was too proud to admit she'd screwed up. Eventually, they let me make a phone call. I tried calling Robert, but he didn't answer. Tried Brenda, no answer. They were probably still on their flight back from Aspen. I sat back down and waited. It wasn't until late afternoon that my parents finally showed up at the station. Brenda immediately started crying when she saw me, but not the good kind of crying, the disappointed kind. The, "how could you do this," kind. Robert, at least, looked more confused than anything else. "Did you really do this, Ethan?" he asked me once we were alone in a small room. "No, I swear to you, I didn't. She asked me to buy weed for her party. I told her no. I hung up on her. I never left my apartment last night. I never went to the house." Robert studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay. Let me go talk to your sister." "Stepsister," I corrected, probably more bitterly than I should have. He didn't argue. Brenda, meanwhile, had already decided I was guilty. I could hear her in the hallway outside, talking to the officers about how she couldn't believe her son would do something like this, how she was so embarrassed, how this was going to ruin the family's reputation. Never mind that her daughter was the one who'd thrown an illegal party. Nope, I was the problem. Robert came back about an hour later. He looked tired. "Your sister's story doesn't make sense." "Stepsister," I said again. "Right, stepsister. She's saying you drove over with the weed, handed it to her, then left. But she can't explain why none of her friends saw you. And when I asked her what kind of car you drove, she described your old car, the one you sold 6 months ago." I felt a tiny bit of relief. "So, you believe me?" "I'm getting there. Let me make some calls." Robert left again. I sat in that cell for another 3 hours before they finally let me out on bail. Both parents were there to pick me up, but the vibe in the car was ice cold. Brenda wouldn't even look at me. Robert just drove in silence. When we got to their house, Robert immediately went to the liquor cabinet, or what was left of it. The doors were hanging open, bottles gone. He stood there staring at it for a minute before turning to look at Chloe, who was sitting on the couch, trying very hard to disappear into the cushions. The silence was heavy. Robert wasn't the type to lose his temper easily, but when he did, it was controlled, calculated, scary in a different way than yelling. "Where's my scotch?" he asked quietly. Chloe didn't answer, just kept staring at her phone like if she looked at it hard enough, she could teleport somewhere else. "Where is my scotch, Chloe?" "I don't know," she mumbled, still not looking up. Robert walked over to her, still calm, but with this edge to his voice I'd never heard before. He reached down and gently took her phone out of her hands, set it on the coffee table. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." She looked up, and I could see the fear in her eyes. "Good. She should be scared. You threw a party. People got caught with weed, but my liquor cabinet is empty. That's a $1,500 bottle of scotch missing. A bottle I was saving for a special occasion, along with about $2,000 worth of other bottles. So, either there was also drinking happening at your party, or you sold my collection to buy weed yourself. Which one is it?" Brenda jumped in, trying to run interference like always. "Robert, don't interrogate her like that. She's been through enough." Robert's head turned toward Brenda so slowly it was almost theatrical. "She's been through enough?" His voice was soft. "Dangerous. Your daughter threw a party, got arrested for possession, then blamed her stepbrother for supplying it. He spent the night in jail because of her lie. But she's been through enough." "We don't know it was a lie," Brenda said, but even she didn't sound convinced anymore. "Yeah, we do." Robert pulled out his phone and pulled up something on the screen. "I already talked to the police while you were freaking out in the hallway. They pulled CCTV from his apartment building. His car didn't move. He never left. But you know whose car was parked at a dispensary parking lot 2 towns over for 45 minutes? Chloe's face went pale. Actually pale, like the blood had drained right out of it. Hers. They have her on camera sitting in the parking lot waiting for someone to come out, then talking to them. Then that person going back inside, then coming back out and handing her something, then her handing them cash. She couldn't buy it herself because she's underage, Robert continued, his voice still eerily calm. So she waited for someone to come out and ask them to buy it for her. Probably gave them cash plus extra for their trouble. That person is now also being investigated, by the way, facing charges for purchasing controlled substances for a minor. All because you couldn't accept that your stepbrother said no. Chloe started, but Robert held up his hand. I'm not done. The police also found social media posts from kids at your party talking about the free drinks, plural drinks, not weed, drinks. They found bottles hidden in the bushes outside. They found a trash bag full of empties in the garage. So, not only did you buy weed illegally, you also broke into my liquor cabinet and distributed to minors. Do you have any idea how many laws you broke? Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in? The room was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Brenda looked between Robert and Chloe, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Is that true, Chloe? Chloe started crying. The fake kind, where there's a lot of noise but no actual tears. I didn't know what else to do. Everyone was expecting it. I panicked. So, you framed your stepbrother? Robert said flatly. I thought it would just blow over. I thought they'd just give him a warning or something. A warning? Robert laughed, but there was no humor in it. You thought they'd give him a warning for providing controlled substances to minors? That's a felony. That's prison time. That goes on your record forever. But you thought it would just blow over. I stood there watching this unfold, feeling vindicated, but also kind of sick. This was my stepsister, someone I'd grown up with, shared holidays with, lived in the same house with for years, and she'd been willing to destroy my entire future because she was too proud to admit she'd made a stupid promise. Brenda, of course, tried to salvage the situation. Okay, so it was a mistake. She made a mistake. She's young. We can fix this. Fix it how? Robert asked. We'll explain to the police that it was a misunderstanding. They'll understand, right? She looked at Chloe. Hopefully. Chloe nodded eagerly. Right. I'll tell them I got confused, that I was stressed and didn't remember things correctly. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. You're going to lie again? I'm not lying. I'm just clarifying. You literally told them I brought you weed. There's no clarifying that. That's just a straight-up lie. Brenda shot me a look. Ethan, don't make this worse. I'm not making anything worse. I'm the one who got arrested because of her, and now we're trying to fix it by lying more. Robert held up his hand. Nobody's fixing anything by lying more. She's going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and she's going to face whatever consequences come from that. She'll get a record. Brenda said, her voice breaking. This will ruin her future. Maybe she should have thought about that before she broke into my liquor cabinet and tried to frame someone else for her crime, Robert retorted. That shut Brenda up for a minute, but only a minute. You're just going to throw her under the bus? Brenda asked Robert. She threw herself under the bus. I'm just not letting her take her brother down with her. Stepbrother, Chloe muttered. I was honestly too tired to care anymore about the distinction. The next few days were a blur of police statements, lawyer meetings, and really uncomfortable family dinners. Chloe eventually admitted the truth to the police. They dropped the charges against me, which was great, but then hit her with charges for underage possession, distribution to other minors, providing false testimony, and resisting arrest. Apparently, she'd been pretty drunk when the cops showed up and had tried to run. Brenda was a mess. She kept calling me, begging me to talk to the prosecutor, to say it wasn't that big of a deal, to help get the charges reduced. I ignored most of the calls. The ones I did answer, I just repeated the same thing. Brenda, this isn't my problem. How can you say that? She's family. She tried to send me to prison, Brenda. That kind of killed the family vibe for me. It was a mistake. It was a choice. She chose to lie. She chose to frame me. She chose herself over me. So now she gets to deal with the consequences. Brenda didn't like that answer. She showed up at my apartment one evening, just pushed past me when I opened the door and started in on this whole speech about family loyalty and forgiveness and how I was being selfish. You need to talk to the prosecutor, she said. Tell them you don't want to press charges. I'm not pressing charges. The state is. Then tell them it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. She committed several crimes and tried to pin them on me. She's your sister. Stepsister. And even if she was my actual sister, that doesn't give her a free pass to ruin my life. Brenda's face got all red and blotchy. So, you're just going to let her go to jail? I'm not letting her do anything. She did this to herself. That's when Brenda really lost it. She started yelling about how I'd always been jealous of Chloe, how I'd always tried to make her look bad, how I was using this situation to finally bring her down. It was completely insane. I'd literally done nothing except refuse to commit a crime for her. And somehow I was the bad guy. You need to leave, Brenda, I said, moving toward the door. I'm not leaving until you agree to help her. Then you're trespassing. Are you seriously going to call the cops on your own mother? I pulled out my phone. Yes. She stared at me for a long moment, probably trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I wasn't. She must have seen something in my face because she suddenly switched tactics. Went from angry to pleading. Please, she said, and her voice got all quiet and broken. She's my daughter. I know she messed up, but she's still my baby. I can't watch her go to jail. I spent a night in jail because of her lies, I said. And you didn't seem too concerned about that. That was different. How? She didn't have an answer for that. Just stood there looking at me with these desperate eyes like if she looked sad enough, I'd cave. I didn't. You need to leave, I said again. Now. She left, but not before telling me I was making a huge mistake and that I'd regret this. The last thing she said before getting in her car was that she should have pushed for Robert to give her full custody of Chloe instead of letting us all live together. Like somehow me existing in the same house as them had caused all of this. I called Robert after she left. Told him everything. He was quiet for a while after I finished. I'm sorry, Ethan, he finally said. For what? For not seeing how bad it had gotten. The favoritism, Brenda's behavior. I knew it was there, but I didn't realize it was this extreme. It's fine. It's not fine, but we're going to deal with it. Starting with family counseling. I almost laughed. You really think Brenda's going to go to counseling? She doesn't have a choice. Either she goes and we work through this, or I file for divorce. That caught me off guard. You'd actually do that? I'm not going to stay married to someone who thinks it's okay to throw one kid under the bus to save another. Especially when the one being thrown under the bus is my son. Something loosened in my chest hearing that. My whole life I'd felt like the spare kid, the one nobody really wanted around. But here was Robert drawing a line in the sand, choosing me for once. Thanks, I said, my voice coming out rougher than I meant it to. Don't thank me. This is just basic parenting, which apparently I need to remind your mother about. True to his word, Robert scheduled family counseling. All four of us. Me, him, Brenda, and Chloe. The first session was rough. Brenda spent the entire hour deflecting, making excuses, trying to reframe everything as a misunderstanding. Chloe just sat there saying nothing. The counselor, this older woman with sharp eyes and zero patience for nonsense, finally cut Brenda off mid-excuse. "Let me ask you something," the counselor said. "If the situation was reversed, if your son had framed your stepdaughter for a crime, would you be asking her to drop the charges?" Brenda opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "That's different." "How?" "Because she's more sensitive. She needs more support." "So, your son doesn't need support?" "That's not what I said." "Then what are you saying?" Brenda couldn't answer. She just sat there looking flustered and defensive. The counselor turned to Chloe. "Why did you lie to the police?" Chloe shrugged. "I don't know. I panicked." "You panicked? So you decided to frame your stepbrother for a felony?" Another shrug. "That's not an answer. I need you to actually think about this and give me a real response. Why did you choose to lie about your stepbrother specifically?" Chloe's face got all pinched. "Because I knew he'd be fine. You know, he's responsible and stuff. He'd figure it out. But if I got in trouble, it would ruin everything." "Ruin what exactly?" "My life, college, everything." The counselor leaned back in her chair. "So, you thought it was okay to ruin his life instead?" "I didn't think it would actually ruin his life. I thought they'd just give him community service or something for providing drugs to minors." "You thought that would just be community service?" Chloe didn't answer. Over the next few weeks of counseling, a pattern emerged. Every lie Chloe had ever told, every time she'd blamed me for something or gotten away with something, Brenda had enabled it, made excuses for it, smoothed it over. And Chloe had learned that she could do basically anything and Brenda would protect her. I brought up specific examples. The time she crashed Brenda's car into a mailbox because she was texting and driving, then said I'd been the one driving even though I was at work. Brenda had believed her until my boss confirmed I'd been on shift. Even then, Brenda's response was, well, she was probably just confused from the shock. The time she stole $200 from Robert's wallet to buy concert tickets, then said I'd taken it. Robert counted his money religiously, so he knew exactly how much was missing. When he found the concert tickets hidden in her room, she said I'd given them to her. Brenda had actually tried to make me pay Robert back even after the truth came out. The time she'd failed her sophomore English class because she literally never showed up, then convinced Brenda that the teacher hated her and was being unfair. Brenda had gone to the school, made a huge scene, demanded they change the grade. The teacher had shown Brenda the attendance records, the missing assignments, everything. Brenda's response? Well, maybe if you'd been more engaging, my daughter would have wanted to come to class. The counselor took notes on all of this, occasionally asking clarifying questions. And when these lies were discovered, what were the consequences? None, I said. Or minimal ones. She'd get grounded for like a day, then Brenda would feel bad and let her off early. Is that true, Brenda? The counselor asked. Brenda shifted in her seat. She's sensitive. Harsh punishments don't work with her. So, what does work? I don't know. Talking to her, explaining why things were wrong. And did she stop lying after these talks? Brenda didn't answer. The counselor turned to Chloe. Why do you think you lie so frequently? Chloe shrugged. I don't know. It's easier than dealing with the consequences. Easier for who? For me, I guess. And what about the people you hurt with your lies? Your stepbrother had to spend a night in jail. He could have gotten a felony record. Did you think about that? Not really. I panicked, and he was the easy target. Why was he the easy target, Chloe? Chloe looked at me, then away. Because he doesn't fight back. He just takes it. That hit me harder than I expected, because she was right. I'd spent my whole life just taking it. Taking the unfair treatment, the comparisons, the blame. I'd learned that fighting back only made things worse, so I'd stopped trying. The counselor saw something in my face. "How does that make you feel, Ethan?" she asked me. "Honestly? Pretty messed up. I've spent years being the family punching bag, and hearing her say it out loud like it's just a fact. Yeah, that's messed up." Brenda started crying again. I didn't realize it was this bad. Robert's voice was sharp. "How could you not realize, Brenda? He tried to tell you multiple times, but you never listened. You were trying to keep the peace by sacrificing our son. That's not keeping the peace. That's choosing a side." The counselor let them argue for a minute before intervening. "Let's talk about why this pattern developed. Brenda, when did you start favoring your daughter over your stepson?" "I don't favor her." "Yes, you do, Robert, me, and even the counselor said in unison." Brenda looked defeated. I don't want her to struggle like I did when I was young. Nobody protected me. Nobody stood up for me. I wanted to be different for her. So, you became her protector. Even when she didn't need protecting, even when she was the one causing harm. I guess so. And in doing that, you taught her that she doesn't have to face consequences. That someone will always save her. That someone will always be the bad guy for her. Brenda nodded slowly, tears still running down her face. The counselor turned back to Chloe. "You've been living in a world without real consequences. Every time you mess up, your mom steps in. Every time you need someone to blame, your stepbrother is there. But that's not how the real world works, Chloe. Eventually, you'll encounter situations where nobody can save you, where nobody else can be blamed, and you won't know how to handle it." "I can handle my own problems," Chloe said defensively. "Can you? Because from what I'm seeing, you've never had to. You got yourself into serious legal trouble. And your first instinct was to frame someone else. That's not handling your problems. That's creating bigger ones." Over the following sessions, we dug deeper. Talked about Brenda's childhood trauma and how it influenced her parenting. Talked about Chloe's complete lack of accountability. It was exhausting. Every session left me drained. But slowly, things started to shift. Brenda started to see how her behavior had hurt both of us. Robert started to understand that staying neutral hadn't been protecting me, it had been abandoning me. Chloe's court date was set for 2 months later. Brenda hired an expensive lawyer, the kind who wore suits that probably cost more than my rent. The lawyer managed to work out a plea deal. If Chloe pleaded guilty to lesser charges, she'd avoid jail time, but get probation, community service, and a record that could potentially be expunged after a few years if she stayed out of trouble. Chloe didn't want to take it. She wanted to fight the charges, convinced she could somehow get out of everything, but her lawyer laid it out plain: "You confessed. There's physical evidence. There are witnesses. You have no defense. Take the deal or risk a felony conviction and possible jail time." She took the deal. The day of sentencing, I didn't go to court. Didn't want to be there. Didn't need to be there. Robert texted me afterward with the details: 18 months probation, 200 hours community service, fines and court costs, and a misdemeanor on her record. "Could have been worse," I texted back. "Could have been better if she just told the truth from the start," Robert replied. After the sentencing, things got weird. Chloe basically refused to talk to me. Not that I was trying to talk to her, but the few times we ended up in the same place, at Robert's birthday dinner or whatever, she'd act like I wasn't there. Brenda was still cold but trying to be civil. Probably because Robert had made it clear their marriage was on thin ice. Then, about a year after everything went down, Chloe graduated high school and just left. Packed her stuff, moved to Los Angeles, and went no contact with everyone except Brenda. She'd text Brenda occasionally, but never called, never visited. It was like she'd decided the whole family was toxic, and she needed a fresh start. Brenda was devastated. She'd check her phone constantly, waiting for messages that rarely came. She tried to guilt Chloe into visiting, into calling more, into being part of the family again. It never worked. Robert, meanwhile, had taken me under his wing at his business. Started teaching me the ropes, bringing me to meetings, showing me how everything worked. "You've got a good head for this," he'd say. "Better instincts than I had at your age." "Thanks," I'd say, still not quite believing that this was real. That Robert was choosing me, investing in me, seeing me as more than just the stepkid who existed in the background. 3 years went by. 3 years of radio silence from Chloe. During those years, my life actually got better. Robert started bringing me into his business, teaching me the ropes. Turned out I was pretty good at it. Robert would introduce me as his son at business meetings. That meant more to me than any inheritance could. Then one day, she showed up at my parents' house. Drove through the night from LA, looking exhausted and 8 months pregnant. Brenda opened the door and just stared. I wasn't there, but Brenda called me right after with the details. Chloe pushed past her into the house. "I need to talk to you." When Robert came downstairs and saw her belly, his expression went completely neutral. That was his tell that he was angry. "When's the due date?" he asked. 3 weeks, maybe less. "And the father's gone." "Took off when I told him I was pregnant." She looked rough. Dark circles, stringy hair, unwashed clothes. This wasn't the golden child who'd left 3 years ago. "I need help," she said. Brenda went into rescue mode. "Of course, honey. You can move back home." "I'm not moving back here. I need money and a place to live in LA." The room went silent. "You want us to buy you a place in Los Angeles?" Robert said slowly. "Just an apartment or a small house." "And how much money?" Chloe named a figure. From Brenda's sharp breath, it was substantial. Robert laughed. "You haven't talked to us in 3 years. And you show up pregnant asking for a house and money?" "I'm family." "Are you?" "Family stays in contact. They don't disappear and only come back when they need something." She started crying and pulled out her phone, showing them my social media, pictures of me at nice restaurants with Robert. My promotion post. "See? You've been taking care of him this whole time. But when I need help, you act like I'm asking for the world. Because he's here. He's present. He didn't disappear and only come back when he needed money," Robert said. "You always liked him better." "I like people who show up." "He ruined my life." There it was. After 3 years, still blaming me. Robert's expression got harder. "He didn't ruin anything, Chloe. You made choices. Bad choices." They sent her to her old room for the night. As soon as she was gone, Brenda called me. "She's here and she's pregnant and I don't know what to do." I told her the truth. "That's not my problem. She's family." "She tried to send me to prison, Brenda. I don't care what happens to her." I found out about 2 days later when Robert called me. "We need to talk," he said. He came over and explained everything. The pregnancy, the demands, the accusations, all of it. "Just thought you should know," he said, "in case she tries to contact you." "Why would she contact me?" "Because she's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things." He was right. A week later, Chloe called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked. "I need money," she said. No hello. No how are you. Just straight to the ask. For what? Does it matter? I'm pregnant and broke and you're doing fine. Just help me out. Why would I help you? Because we're family. I actually laughed at that. Family, right? Like when you tried to get me arrested? That was years ago. Yeah. Years ago that you never apologized for, never acknowledged, never took responsibility for. You just ran away to LA and pretended it never happened. I was young and stupid. And now you're old and stupid. Congratulations. She hung up on me. I went back to my life. But here's where it gets really wild. About 3 months before Chloe's due date, she showed up at my parents' house again. This time, she had a proposal. I'll let you adopt the baby, she told them. Brenda's eyes went wide. What? I'll give you the baby. You can raise it, but I need a house in California and some money to get set up. Robert stared at her. You're trying to sell us your baby. I'm not selling anything. I'm giving you an opportunity to have a grandchild. A grandchild you're using as leverage to get money. Call it whatever you want. This is my offer. Brenda looked torn between horrified and hopeful. She'd always wanted more grandkids, but this was something else. Robert sat down heavily on the couch. How much money are we talking about? Chloe named a number. I don't know exactly what it was, but based on Robert's reaction, it was substantial. And the house? Robert asked. Nothing crazy. Just like a 2-bedroom. Something decent in Los Angeles. Yeah. Robert was quiet for a long time. Then he said, we'll do it, but I have conditions. What conditions? You sign away all parental rights forever. You have no claim to the child. You never contact them. You never try to be part of their life, obviously. And you sign a contract that says you're out of this family for good. No contact with us. No contact with your stepbrother. You change your last name. You cease to exist as far as we're concerned. Chloe looked taken aback. That's extreme. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. She took it. Of course, she took it. She signed everything Robert put in front of her, changed her name legally, gave up all rights to her kid, took the money and the house, and disappeared back to LA. My parents adopted my nephew when he was born. Chloe didn't even want to hold him in the hospital. Called him, that thing, at one point, which told you everything you needed to know about her priorities. I met my nephew when he was about 2 weeks old. Tiny little guy, completely oblivious to all the drama that had brought him into this world. Brenda was already obsessed with him, which was good, I guess. At least he'd have someone who cared. Robert pulled me aside during that visit. I'm making sure we don't make the same mistakes with him that we made with your stepsister. Good, I said. And I'm making you a legal partner in the business. Eventually, you'll take over when I retire. I didn't know what to say to that. After years of being the forgotten kid, the stepson who didn't quite fit, I was suddenly being handed a future I'd never dared to hope for. Thank you, I managed. Don't thank me. You've earned it. Chloe called me one more time after my nephew was born. It was maybe a month after she'd signed away her rights and moved into her new house in LA. I just wanted to tell you something, she said when I answered. What? You ruined my life. I was so tired of this narrative. I didn't ruin anything. You made your choices. If you just bought the weed that night, none of this would have happened. I'd still have my family. I wouldn't have to give up my baby. If I'd bought the weed, I'd have a felony. You'd still be the golden child getting away with everything. And you'd probably be on baby number 3 by now, still blaming everyone else for your problems. You're such a jerk. Maybe, but at least I'm a jerk with a clean record and a functional life. She tried to argue more, tried to twist things around so that somehow everything that had happened was my fault. I let her talk herself out, then said, Are you done? What? Are you done, Chloe? Because I'm going to hang up now, and I'm blocking your number, and I never want to hear from you again. Fine, whatever. I got what I wanted anyway. Did you? Because from where I'm standing, you traded your family and your kid for a house and some cash. Seems like a pretty terrible deal. Better than being stuck with all of you. Then I guess we're both happy with how things turned out. I hung up. Blocked her number. Blocked her on every social media platform. As far as I'm concerned, she doesn't exist anymore. My nephew is 3 now. Happy kid. Has no idea who his biological mother is. And honestly, that's probably for the best. Brenda and Robert are doing a better job with him than they ever did with either of us kids. Turns out sometimes people need a second chance to get parenting right. Robert made good on his promise. I'm a legal partner in the business, learning everything, being groomed to take over eventually. It's weird going from the forgotten stepkid to the heir apparent, but I'm not complaining. My stepsister is still out there somewhere in LA. I don't follow her social media. Don't ask about her. Don't think about her. As far as I'm concerned, that chapter of my life is closed. I'm still processing everything that happened, even years later. What would you have done if your family member tried to frame you for a felony? Would you have been able to forgive them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, I'm genuinely curious.